Today, we're talking about a massive shift. What happens when AI enters the content arena, from music and film to startups and code, and what it means for artists, technologists, and businesses? I'm joined by two people who live this every day. Lathan Hodge is a creative producer and technologist with deep roots in music, television, and digital innovation. We have Ascendle's own Jason Ling, Director of Digital Strategy. Jason Ling is a product leader, tracking how AI is reshaping everything from apps to org charts. If you know us at Ascendle Unscripted, we like to dive right in. So I'm going to start with you, our guest, Lathan. You've worked with pioneers like Chuck D, and you've been part of every shift, broadcast to peer-to-peer, ringtones, streaming. The question is, how has your relationship to content and distribution evolved across those shifts?
Thanks, Michael, for having me. I'll tell you, during each shift, for me, it was important to take the time to understand the technology. And sometimes they understand, but overstand truly. How can I implement each technology, in terms of utilizing it for content distribution and discovery? And my relationship has always been one of evolution and imagination. I've got to be able to think about it from a standpoint of what would it be like on the content creator side as a business creative, but also that person on the other end, how they want to receive it, how are they going to utilize it in their own, manner of however they chose to receive that content.
So it sounds like part of your approach, at least, Lathan, was to not be certain, to stay open and not go right in on this is what this could be, but there is a curiosity. It sounds like.
100%. We're in a knowledge economy. We've been in the knowledge economy for a while, and uh, uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's my motto in terms of when I look at technology. It's I have to pause and think about it and take time and do the things I need to do, and spend time with technologists and spend time with creators and really as a producer to understand what's going on and try to dive in deep, go deep into the well.
Can we ever just stop being curious, or do we have to do it for the rest of our lives?
I think we'll have to do it for the rest of our lives.
And I'm going to say that's a great thing. Jason, I saw you nodding there a bit. Can you share maybe what you were thinking?
Um, ever since the internet came around, the phrase "content is king" is it. Like it's content equals engagement, content equals revenue. That's really what it is. In the middle part of my career, I was lucky to be kind of right at the beginning of social media and user generated content, and it was just like it opened up the floodgates. And I could not agree more with Lathan, where we are absolutely a knowledge economy right now. And it's kind of like what we've spoken about in previous episodes, where it's the like AI isn't going to take your job, but someone who is using AI, who is learning, who is up on the latest technology, the latest trends, the latest everything, they're the ones who are going to take your job. So it is, and it's also insanely uncomfortable to be like, it's like, the essence of imposter syndrome is the more I learn, the less I know. So you got to keep doing that. And with content, again, content is king. Like whether it's music, whether it's images, whether it's film, video, whatever, it's like, that is in my opinion, that is the life's blood of the internet. It's content. It is generation. It is distribution. It is, I think there was this old term, I forget who coined it, but it was like, it's called the 99-1, and it's an old term where it's the 1% actually creates, 9% contributes, 90% consumes. And it's just fascinating. Yeah. I am just sitting here at the foot of the master with Lathan. So I'm just listening. I'm just a tech guy.
So let me ask you though, what along those lines, Jason, why do you feel, because you did express before we hopped on this conversation with Lathan felt urgent, to explore this. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
One thing is, it's the Disney Mid-Journey lawsuit. So Disney is currently suing Midjourney. So for those of you who probably, hopefully, you know who Midjourney is. Midjourney came about in like 2022. They're a generative AI platform, and you create videos. You can create videos. You can play images. It's that it was one of the first ones. They actually operate on a Discord server. You have to be a member of, and you create and stuff like that. So month ago ish, maybe a little longer. Disney filed a federal lawsuit against them. And the lawsuit is that they have inappropriately scraped copyrighted material to train their model. And we all know Disney's totally cool if you just want to use their stuff. Yeah, they're fine with it. But it's that. Like, this in my mind is the first domino of AI can't be a Wild West anymore. Like, tech for the sake of tech. Like, now it's the other side of the table. Like, how are these artists, these content creators, are, how are they being ripped off? How is their art their own? Like, I just find this insanely fascinating that because of this, now we're kind of forcing the conversation of, okay, is AI good for the artist? Question mark.
That was a question I was going to ask Lathan. And one thing is you were talking, Jason, the idea of stealing a thing and reiterating on it, of course, isn't new. Um, the only example that popped in my head was the Vanilla Ice lawsuit with,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So Lathan, like this idea, like that, what Jason was laying out there, like, how does one like the originality, like who really owned that, like where, the idea was here, like this person had the idea first, then it was another iteration, who's the owner, what do you think that looks like right now?
Um, that's the $1,000,000 question right there. But I tell you, it's one of those things when I think about large language models. And I remember when a couple years ago when I was at AWS Hub, and the meaning for AI and large language models and foundational models. I was like, there's 300 people, almost 300 people in the room, and most of everyone, at least 95%, were tech folks, which was great. But I was like, where are the content creators? Where are the influencers? Where are the people who are making content? But to your question, and one thing I think about all the time is that when you look at large language models and they scraped all this history and information and it's in there. And okay, so I pay homage to, you know, Sir Isaac Newton, or I pay homage to something that is in there that is like, I didn't know Shakespeare wrote this part of the story, but I'm taking this this level of content and my storytelling, and I don't know where I got it from. Why does this feel so good when I read the story or hear the story or see the visuals? Is because we're taking the best of the best and the trash as well, but we're taking everything in there. So I think that for us, the one thing a couple years ago, we were spending a lot of time as creators around the table, and we were saying, if we go in, let's make sure that we are also um, come back out, go back in, human prompts, prompting, but also let's make sure we're putting original content in. Those were some of the things that we were having discussions 2 years ago about. Today, it's still evolving, and so I think the challenges today is that how do you go about it in a way that has real respect to intellectual property is something we care about, and how do we move forward in a way that's meaningful and those type of protections. The challenge is that genie is already out the bottle and we can't put it back in.
Yeah, along those lines, to just backtrack on something you said a moment ago, Lathan, that room at Amazon where very few creators, a lot of technology folks, something you may have said, previously when we spoke about having a voice at a table when it comes to AI. What do you feel that means in practice? Making sure creators, have representation right now, and what does a voice at the table look like in practicality?
Yeah, I think it's about engagement. It's about getting into the right rooms, and that was one of those rooms that if you're not in on that day, there's another day you should be in a room or at an event at a conference. And I think that was something that in previous times, in previous technologies, we spent time with technologists. because they were asking us, what do you think about this? How can we improve upon it? But when you go about solving a pain point and there's not that kind of engagement, I think you do have issues. But right now, I think some of those creators, there's creators who are involved with AI companies, but I think there should be more. And I think the other thing what I'm seeing too is companies are out, not to move it too far along, is companies are changing their policies. Like, you come out, you see an agreement comes out and it's like a user agreement. And like Adobe last year, they changed their policy quickly, right? They got the response back from creators saying, hey, I'm not sure if I want my content, being able to be used in a certain manner. So I think that, when we talk about the inclusion of artists, creators, especially in art and culture and creators in the public space, it's where our content lives, and we have to continue to lead by culture. And I'm taking that from I take that from Chuck D. That's something that he's been saying for the last few years. Lead by culture.
What does that mean? Lead by culture. I actually not heard that.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
it means is that, in culture, in terms of culture is a driver in many aspects. And what I see in
Mhm.
technology, a lot of times something takes on because it's culturally relevant. And so, art and music, very, very powerful. Uh, I think sometimes in this country, we don't really, because we don't treat it like other countries when we really honor and respect and really put, you know, economics behind our artists. We fight for ourselves. We're out there, let's see the cream rise to the top, but there's so much incredible art out there. But I think that that's something that also filters down. If we don't really respect our art and creativity, there's a reason why it doesn't, in the general population, why art is like devalued sometimes. So I think that art has to lead by, I want to say lead by culture. And what we talk about there is that, let the art speak for itself and let art drive, what it needs to drive in terms of technology, especially around AI at this given time in our history.
It's funny. There's a term in AI. It's called the human in the loop. Is the phrase? It came out of Google. It's part of Google's AI training and everything like that. And the human in the loop is it's basically it's the human in the room with AI. It's like, hey, so do you trust your job that an AI that a agentic workflow could do from A to Z without any human interaction whatsoever? Do you trust your job to do that? The answer should be no. So having that human in the loop is that it's again, it's like being the adult in the room. And I don't. And listen, I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination. If any designers who have worked with me have been in a room with me with a whiteboard when I'm trying to explain a product idea, they know horribly I am not an artist. But I think there's nothing more human than art, and there's nothing more human than content. So because of that, I could not, like, just the plus one, Lathan, is it is vital that you have a human in the loop when it comes to this kind of AI content creation, or it just loses its soul.
When you say human in the loop, I immediately thought of the film War Games,
Yeah.
where in the beginning, if you know the
Yeah.
expression, sir, turn your key,
Yeah.
sir, where there was a human literally in the loop, and there's like, we're going to take the humans out of the loop because the human was like, well, I don't know if I really want to do this. This is a really big deal kind of thing. And the movie kind of proved that you do want to have humans, or it suggested that like you do want to have humans in the loop, because the thing could just run awry and then you're in some serious trouble. So having that human in the loop and then, kind of molding with AI, the question I have for the both of you is, what's the line between inspiration, theft, and innovation? Like, because some might argue that movie that you made, well, Shakespeare wrote that in 1600, and he took it from Aristophanes. Like, he took it from the Greeks. So, like, none of this is original. There's some people say there's 3
Uh-huh.
stories or 5 stories. So it's like none of it's original. You took it from the previous person and you put a little bit of a spin on it. But then, you're talking about the Mid-Journey thing where it's like Disney comes in, it's like, you took our stuff, that's our stuff, kind of thing. It's like, well, was that your stuff or was that Shakespeare's? Or, whose stuff really was it? How does those lines feel blurry? how do you know what is that? And because like not everybody I feel like thinks like you do, Lathan, where it's like, let's slow down a second and understand the technology before we just go run with this thing. Because I know there's a sect that wants to just run with it, for a lot of reasons. And I don't think these reasons are malicious. I think it's just like survival. Like we got to stay ahead. We have to keep moving here. They're going to get ahead. So in this age now, how do you draw a line between inspiration, theft, innovation, and all that stuff? Lathan, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when we look at the speed of the way things are moving. And as creators, we want to create. That's what we're on the planet to do. We figure out like I'm creating, and then also the regular everyday person is also now allowed to do that. Right? We have that kind of abilities now to, you know, create in that manner. I think it just becomes to a way of, governance and figuring out how do we self police that. But I think that it's going to it has to shake out. I think one thing that Jason said in terms of the human aspect of things, there's a time, and even right now today, where some digital natives, a lot of them, and a lot of alphas, they can see AI very quickly. They recognize it off off the dome, as
Yeah.
they say. I think that um, some folks have a harder time recognizing, is this real? Is this Why does this feel different? But I think the human aspect today, and AI is getting smarter every day, right? Every day I see things that are looking better and better and better. But I think right now, uh, what's sentient, what has a soul, the human approach to it. And I think that's going to be the thing that's going to help. May not, it doesn't answer the question of like how do we get it past the remix portion of things, because that's still going to happen. I think some of the things that are happening like right now with Disney, that is going to have a echoing an effect, because when they start dealing with capital on that level, folks are going to pause. And we've done that. We've had to pause before when we were, in front of Capitol Hill, even dealing with Napster back in the day. And that's another podcast for another day. But I think that those are things that we had the reason why we were approaching and working with Napster versus someone even today saying, "Hey, why am I using AI and remixing like this?" But I think at the end of the day, economic certainty in terms of the economics around it is going to make an impact in terms of companies saying, and I'm hearing it right now. The one thing that's happening right now, I'm seeing a lot of companies that are reaching out and truly doing things in the proper manner of licensing. Oh, I want video content, I'll license your library. So I'm seeing more of those deals happen today. But I would be really interested to hear Jason's point of view, where he's seeing it too, because you're seeing it from I'm sure another side as well.
I mean, inspiration, theft, and innovation. It's going to be a simplistic answer, but honestly, I think it's intent. I think it's
Mm,
intent. Like, and I can only speak from like digital experiences and digital products and everything like that. But it's like literally Lyft and Uber are exactly the same, 100%, exactly the same experiences. Um, True Social, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Blue Sky, they're all the same. Like literally, they are all the same digital experience. Would you argue was that theft, inspiration, or innovation when those were created? It's weird. I know this probably doesn't make sense, but it's like I think it's intent. Like to Lathan's point, it was the if I want to do this right and I have the ability to license and like follow the rules. Like the reason why we have theft is because we have copyright laws and we have lawyers. So it's theft and it's precedence. Like don't steal my stuff, kind of thing, and like and then it goes into is this parody? Is it derivative? Is it like I didn't go to law school, but it's like I look at it like is it intent? Did you intentionally scrape Public Enemy's entire library because I want samples? You know, what's the intent? Or did I scrape Nirvana's entire catalog because I want to train my AI to come up with that genre feel. That's it's a flimsy argument. I'll fully admit it, but it's like I really do feel it's intent. Like, why are you doing it?
Yeah, but and to your point, I will say this. I mean, hip hop has been guilty of that. I mean, we've got so many rock and blues and songs, and you know what? At the end of the day, somebody came knocking at the door. Where's my publishing?
Yeah,
Sting
yeah.
is very happy right now. He's still getting, and a number of artists are very happy with hip hop for that very reason. And hip hop had to grow up and figure it out. Okay, so we said, okay, yeah, we've got to do it the right way, and so that is something that is an evolution of time and a process. But I think sometimes I think with tech companies, we always, and I say we because I've been in the valley for 25 years. And I think the one thing I see now is that a lot of times it's like, okay, we'll run out there, we'll put it out, we'll figure it out the other part later.
it, it's forgiveness over
Absolutely.
permission. Yeah, it's forgiveness over permission. Yeah, I've got this amazing, innovative idea, and like I'm going to put it out there. And of course, you have your board of directors going. In about 8 minutes, we're going to be getting some really ugly emails from people, and we're like, "That's cool. We still have those 8 minutes." So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I know you didn't go to law school, Jason, but intent does matter.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it does. In the eyes of the law, it matters. Net result is this thing happened, but what really matters is did you intend for the thing to happen? And the path to justice are like completely different, whether you intended or you did not intend. So I do think intent is really relevant. And then going back to what you said about hip hop, Lathan, one of the things that attracted me to Public Enemy's music were the guitar riffs. I love the guitar riff in She Watched Channel Zero. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if that, like, where that may have been sampled from, but that combination of genres was so compelling for me as a listener. But this is going back to late 1980s now, right? So like this wasn't pulled from a digital realm. This was had to be sampled off a tape or a record or something else, right? And mixed in there. So you were talking a moment ago about the business model that hasn't maybe caught up with technology yet. Do you feel like there are large mismatches between how content is made and how creators are paid right now?
I do. I do. I think there are definitely some it's definitely mismatched right now. Um, you know, right now, in our industry, fast is good in a lot of aspects. The bottom line, production is a thing that there's real time that you have to put into production, as we all know. And I can look at the savings of time around with AI with different aspects of production. The written part is an important part, and the creation part is a really important part. There's only so many stories, you know, um, that we have in humanity that we tell. We found different variations to tell those stories. In the post production side, there's some ways that we're saving time. I'm seeing even in my own work that we're saving time in production. So corporations, I think, they're leaning in very heavy because that time is at the end of the day gets down to the bottom line. So I think that there's the challenges with catching up. We are trying to figure out how to catch up, and the way things are moving. There's times when I feel like we're getting closer, but with the acceleration of the way AI is moving, I just not sure we will catch up until the bean counters say, "Hey, okay, enough already." This is we're doing well on one side of the table, but our libraries at the end of the day, uh, you know, media content creation, the libraries are very, they're monetized to a large degree, and that's not going to that's not going to be impacted. They're not. No company is going to allow that to be impacted um, going forward.
In tech, Jason, seeing AI reduce time and cost across the board, how are teams adapting or failing to adapt when you could rebuild Airbnb in a weekend?
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, AI equals revenue. That's just what it equals revenue because revenue has two sides. You have the bottom line, but you also have the top line, and it all depends on how you implement AI. Like from a bottom line perspective, exactly what Lathan is saying, it's all about efficiency. It's all about how quickly can I do something? How quickly can I get feedback? It's operational costs. It's like how quickly can I get a feature out, or how quickly can I prove or disprove a hypothesis by, instead of spending a month with 15 engineers to build something to do some A/B testing, I could literally do it in 25 minutes with a low code, no code, whatever. I mean, Replit just announced that they're partnering with Microsoft to do enterprise level, no code, not logo, zero code app development into Azure. So you want to talk about getting things out there and as quickly as possible. It's great. And then of course, from the top line perspective, it's the like, this is great. You can do more A/B testing. You can do more personalization. Top line is all about new customers, keep the current ones you have engaged, and then ARPU, average revenue per user. I personally feel the problem is everyone's focusing on the bottom line right now, on like how efficient can we make this? And the problem with that is that, and I won't just speak, I won't speak to art or content. I'll just speak to just like tech and products in general. It's now insanely easy to do quantity over quality. I could build an app in 35 seconds and publish it. Is it going to be good? Probably not. So now I personally feel that while this massive acceleration of operational efficiency could potentially just create an ocean of slop, it's just garbage, because you put in a little and you get out a lot. If it's just like, I'm doing it, it's assembly line. Like, okay, so in the early 2000s, I lived down in LA, and radio station K-Rock, world famous, like the rock station. There was a 5 to 6 year period in the early aughts of 2000s where, and I want to see Lathan's response to this, where music was just garbage because it was cookie cutter corporate. It was the same thing. And a new band showed up every week. 4 albums later, a month later, it was like, the old Stephen King model, where it's like, for some reason there was this time period where every month Stephen King had a new book out, and it was just like, that's cool that you can do this really, really, really efficiently, but is it good? So that's kind of my take on it, where it's like, I think that's where there's too much of a focus on that. It's speed, it's quantity over quality.
I call it crank it out culture.
Mhm.
That's it. Yeah.
I call it just crank it out. Let's just crank it out. And then I'm like, well, why? And like, of course I'm prone to existential questions, but why? So for me, Jason, you walked us right into my next question for Lathan, which was the pace of production. Like, Lathan, in your view, it's like, is faster better? Like, and I was thinking in terms of like what you're doing, like maybe some aspects we don't have to spend as much. It's interesting because like, it seems like the cell is like, okay, well, the machine's doing this stuff. So now we're freer. We're freer to create. We have more creative will to make better. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening. It's like, we're going to do more. It's not like, well, the machines are going to take over, so we're all just going to hang out with each other. No, you're still working 80 hours a week. You same level of work. So you're not working less. You're working the same or more, but you're trying to produce more and more and more. Watching things in their evolution, Lathan, like how do you feel about the pace of production, and like what does that look like from your view?
Yeah, I think the pace of production is increasing. I was just talking to a production company owner yesterday, and he was telling about how he can cut up all the videos, from a long form into short form very quickly, which has been out for a while. But he was just talking about the time savings for him. I think that when we look, say, more, the average screen time, let's say 6.5, 7 hours, you know, a day for folks, you know, creators are in the mix of that content flow in social. And so a majority, it gets back to the mismatch, right? How do you stand out above the crowd? The pacing of time of content that you're putting out with time, it's helping in some aspects, but I still am convinced that today is selective. To your point, Michael, is people are putting more and more and more in, and people it's still like that. The machine, feed the machine. I always talk about, ghost in the machine. You're feeding the machine. You got to feed the machine and keep it humming. And social has helped to also time that speed of storytelling. We know storytelling is much more powerful than just the written word, and so everybody's consuming video all day long, and I think that speed is, in the world today is there. So, you know, yeah, the speed is there. It's the way we're using it is more very is selective, but it also is giving me, on the other hand, it's giving me time to think about projects better, execute better, shorten some windows, and I've never been one of those producers who always wanted to say, okay, from the producer and technology side, okay, it was all about what tool is going to help me to get more stories out, and also, you know, I love projects that take many, many years, but I am not personally trying to take many, many years to get projects out. I'm really trying to spit them out. So I'm probably the best and worst person when I look at it at the end of the day, because I'm figuring out like, okay, I can use this and we can get more content out in a way that's quality and have the impact that we want to have in the marketplace.
Do
I
you
think
do y'all
it's
think? Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No, Jason, go ahead, please.
I think it's that it's the ultimate argument of output versus outcome, where it's the like generative AI is really really good at creating outputs, and in theory should kind of free you up to think of what the outcome should be. And that's where it's like we're seeing that fire hose where it's like, you're right. I mean, Lathan, to your point, it's like we now live in a snackable content world where it's like it's less than 60 seconds. Um, I read something yesterday where 90% of millennials and Gen Z that they've talked to um, get their watch content that's less than 90 seconds. Like that's it. Like this is it. So it's that, but unfortunately, and I know you said the genie's kind of out of the bottle. I would be a little more negative and say like Pandora's box is open, um, and say like this is awesome. We now have a tool that we can just flood the world with whatever. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, because again, the good thing is like put it out there, test what's resonating, what are people caring about, seeing that human connection and not having to spend 2 weeks coming up with content or coming up with something and trying to do that. I just hope that we don't you should always ask yourself, what outcome am I trying to achieve? Am I just trying to throw spaghetti against a wall and 5 things are going to resonate? I created 100 of them, but 5 hit. Cool. Like what outcome are you trying to achieve with it?
100%. And I think the other thing too is that when you talk about content creation, even though we're looking to get more content out, there's a certain level of content that we're producing, between social and streamers and other things. You still have to market that content. Social is a
Yeah.
throwaway. But I think a lot of content that, things that we're involved in, there's time that you're not going to get away from the time it takes to get awareness and also to try to pull attention, um, especially with the number of, impressions that we're getting every day. That is the other part of this that still is part of our entire equation in terms of content creation.
It's almost to the point where, because you can just do rapid fire creation, and this just popped into my head. It's actually not the content that's important. It's the creator that's actually doing it. And you're like, the creator isn't marketing the content. It's almost like the content is now marketing the creator when it comes to this. And I know this sounds very, hear me. Michael's face is like, what? Like, prime example, like Mr. Beast on YouTube. Guy can create anything. You're watching him. His content is marketing him. And because you could just create so much of it so quickly, that it's almost like my content is now a marketing tool for my personal brand of who I am.
Do you feel we're going to reach some sort of critical mass of, because your point about the cuts in a movie, you watch an old like Woody Allen film, that's 10 minutes of one take. That's one shot. It's a 2 shot, 2 people talking. They don't even move. They just sit there on the sofa. talking. Now, like I watch, it's like push it. Like now, anything newly produced is like put the camera never sits still. It's pushing in, it's moving, you're cutting. Like everything is so fast. So I'm reluctant to say something is good or something is bad, but it just seems like this. And then relevant right now, the new Superman's coming out. The cost of the movie versus the cost of the marketing. Like it's like, and then I'm a Tom Cruise fan, but it's almost like Tom's like, how can I come as close to death as possible to try to get people in the movie theater? And this is just my personal opinion, not representative here, but it's like he's gone so extreme in a way. And I think part of it is like, I've got to do this, otherwise no one's going to come to the movie theater. And the cost of it is to strap myself to an airplane and fly upside down, like to try to do something that extreme to get people to come in. When is enough enough? Like, flooding the channels with the Superman stuff. Every person paying this $200 million in marketing to just try to get people's attention to come in. Is there going to be some sort of critical mass where it's like, we can't go any further? We flooded every channel. We spent $500 million on marketing on a $100 million film, like to just capture that attention. And it feels so difficult. And I would love to hear your guys' perspective. Like, it feels so hard to get someone's attention and or redirect their attention from something. Like, it's like, I have an idea for an app. It's like, you got to pull their attention. Great. Twitter, like they're already on X. You got to pull their attention from that and then put it on someone else. And that never feels like an easy thing to do. So do you feel like there's going to be some sort of critical mass or a new birth of something somehow, some way? Because right now it just feels like, let's go. Let's flood it. Let's go and let's see what we can grab.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. There is that challenge all the time of how do you get people to get their attention. And we see that influencers, for example, their content, they're following, like a Tom Cruise, they're following that person. They want to see, I want to see what is Tom going to do next, right? And they're following with the brand. But I think in terms of whatever technology you have, what does it come down to at the end of the day if you can't get the attention? And I think that's where I think the other thing we're always trying to figure out in terms of, what does it take for us um, to achieve the success we want with a given project. With the things that we do overall today, there might be a shorter attention span up front, but how do you create the long tail? How do you create the long tail, and how do you keep people involved? And at certain points, are there ways to do that in a way that's meaningful, that makes sense? But I think when I look at AI and I look at things that are around that portion of technology, there's things that we're constantly trying to kick the tires. Again, getting back to the knowledge economy, we're still trying to figure things out and, you know, get around smart folks and folks who are in it and living it every day, and folks who are new to it, who are bringing new ideas forward. So we're constantly trying to do that in terms of, how can we get realistic outcomes with what we do? Because the industry, let's look at it from overall standpoint. Um, our industries, uh, you know, have changed in the media landscape greatly, and it's still evolving when we look at it. As someone who's gone through, from broadcast to streamer to digital, uh, I'm watching it in real time, and some of the things I'm seeing today is, gets back to more of an independent, a foot in both waters from time to time. When we work with a company, and sometimes we're running independent, but at the end of the day, it's all relative when it gets down to uh, a phone, a tablet, a computer. People are consuming all over the place, and and probably a lot more in space, public spaces as well. Screens are everywhere, right?
Yeah. Jason, when velocity outpaces verification, speaking of speed.
I mean, I think the big difference that we're seeing now is AI is a horizontal technology. And I know there are people probably tired of hearing me say this, but it is. Like, it's not like a rideshare app where it's a very monolithic kind of thing. It's not like short-term rental Airbnb kind of concept idea. Like, because artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, AIML has been around for 50 years, but like specifically generative AI. It's more of a, in my opinion, it's more of a tool that can enhance as if it's used correctly. Like the whole thing about velocity versus, validation and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I can do stuff really, really quickly, but it doesn't mean it's any good or anything like that. And then going also back to the whole thing of like, how do you get the attention? Like, it's so noisy out there. Like, I won't speak from obviously from the content perspective, but just from building products, like, like there hasn't been an original idea since like 1997, or something like that. And like, it's always been this big challenge. And like the essence of product-led growth is, I don't have a $200 million marketing budget for my tech company. Instead, what I do is I need to put my customer in the center of what I'm creating and build the experience around them. And what AI can allow me to do from a velocity multiplier is to test hypotheses quickly. A/B testing. It's the simplest way. It's kind of that kind of like Venn diagram of the bottom line versus the top line kind of thing of, I can create more personalized experiences because I get to know the user behavior of my customers. And so like I said, AI was it's AI previous to AI. I'd argue as a horizontal was smartphone. Remember when iPhone came out in 2007, everybody on the planet said they needed an app, and everyone built apps. And then the app store there, everyone was trying to figure out, how do I get my app to the top of the app store, and how do I get it onto the home screen and everything like that. You can't really do that with AI. Like, it's like, hey, how do I get my AI on your phone? It's like, it's already there. It's like, it's not a thing. So that's where I think where AI and a lot of this stuff can help. And I know I'm rambling, but it really helps about the personalization, because I truly, truly, truly believe this. And I've seen this for a number of years, and it does kind of dovetail into what content has been successful is from a product technology perspective. One, I want my experience to feel like it's just for me. I want it personalized. You have all my data points. I'm giving them to you. So feed me back my personalized experience. Amazon recommendations, classic example. Like, feed it, make it about me. Make it so it resonates with me. And then the second one, which I think is even more important to cut through the noise and to really differentiate yourself from others, is I shouldn't have to interact with it. It should interact with me. And again, it make me feel special, make me feel like this experience resonates with me. Yeah.
Jason, I feel like that could have been your close.
Sure.
And,
Sure.
yeah. I was going to move us to close because we're just about out of time. Lathan, is there anything that you would like to impart to, creators or tech leaders navigating this period of history, this exciting and dynamic time?
Yeah, I think the one thing, is to, for creators to level up, you know, go where you're comfortable, and connect with tech leaders, collaborate. I think align and figure out the shared interests. I think that's important, because I think the one thing is that, no, we can't do this in a vacuum. I'm very, one of my colleagues, Raj Singh, who is with Mozilla and launched Solo AI. There's governance there. They're figuring out, back to the governance thing. And that's one thing I still think that we continue to talk about that. You know, those are important things, and associate with people who are have governance and want to do things in the space, because I think there are a lot of creators who are very concerned about their art. They're very concerned about their art. And we have those discussions all the time about that concern. And there's definitely a huge fear factor. The other thing I say is, find that the challenge is for creators is to find the right technology and just work to stand out above the crowd. Those are the things that, in my humble opinion, are things to look at.
Thank you for that. Jason, is there anything that we have not covered that you'd love to share before we wrap?
I mean, I would just keep reminding yourself that AI is not the silver bullet. It is just another tool. It's just a very, very advanced tool. To kind of use a metaphor for art, like a painter with a brush versus a painter with with spray paint. It's just another tool. It all depends on how you use it, and that's just all it is. Same thing with tech. It's just another tool. Like, don't make it a crutch, but you have to learn it.
One of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite photographers, Eve Arnold, said, "It is the photographer and not the camera that is the instrument."
Exactly.
Wow. Gentlemen, thank you for the conversation today. This has been awesome. Audience, thank you as always for tuning into Ascendle Unscripted. Until next time, build smart.